Good afternoon, everyone. Nandyan po ba kayong lahat?
Magandang hapon.
Good afternoon po, ma'am.
Good afternoon po, ma'am.
Mabuhay.
Good afternoon po.
Magandang hapon. Isang natatanging hapon ang inilaan sa atin ngayon. Maraming tao ang nakilahok at nakituwang upang maging posible ang ating Lenten gig sa hapon na ito. Marami pong salamat sa inyong presensya. Sa pagkakataon na ito ay nais namin kayong batiin at i-welcome sa isang natatanging Lenten gig na inihahandog ng Project Ubuntu. Let me walk you through who or what group is this Project Ubuntu. So welcome. So Project Ubuntu means I am because of who we all are. This is an African philosophy that places emphasis on being self through others. Ako ay ganito dahil sa inyong lahat. Reverend Desmond Tutu said, "We all have the strength to become critical, friendly, hospitable, generous, gentle, caring, and compassionate, and has the capacity to use all these strengths on behalf of others, the weak, the poor, the ill, and those who suffer." Project Ubuntu is a program of John Wesley Academy and Critical Thinking Center. The 61st Middle Philippines Annual Conference session of the United Methodist Church made it its official program. Every year we hold a Lenten gig like this, a tapestry of songs, dances, and poetries that would remind us, critical pedagogues, to become steadfastly principled in upholding what Jesus admonished us to do, to be agents of peace and justice. Wini-welcome po namin kayong lahat. Maraming salamat po sa Dekana ng Kolehiyo ng Edukasyon, Dr. John Mark Bondok, sa pakikiptuwang nila sa atin. Salamat din po sa buong Middle Philippines Annual Conference, mga United Methodist friends na naririto nakasama natin ngayon. We aim to unwaveringly cultivate criticality among us by achieving clarity, accuracy, precision, ethical reasoning, sound judgment, intellectual honesty, and humility. Because nowadays, lies become truth if we let them. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
And ye shall know the truth. Truth shall make you free.
Di ba tayo'y narito upang maging malaya at upang palayain ang iba?
Sa pag-ikot ng mundo, hindi ako mapanuto. Di malirip, di mahagkit ng munti kong isip. Tinatagit ng siphayo, bakit nagkaganito? Komplikado at todo-todo. Nagkakagulo, nag-aaway sa prinsipyo, niyakap na balita, di pala totoo. Humusga, kumutya, nanlait humagupit, sadyang naipit ang lakas na tila naging pipit. Kanino aasa, kanino dudulog? Walang tumatalima, walang nagkukusa, sadyang kamalayan ay napariwara. Nalilito, naliligaw, hindi makita ang mundo. Nagtatanong, nagsusuri kung lahat pa ba to ay totoo. Nalulunod sa impormasyon na nababasa at naririnig. Sa bilyong-bilyong kalatas, bakit ang kasinungalingan pa ang itinataas? Ang sabi sa isang kanta, bago maniwala, mag-isip-isip ka muna. Marami ang namamatay sa maling akala. sakop ng internet napakalawak na. Pumapantay na ito sa lawak ng masa. Sa social media, marami kang makikita. Mas mainam oras mo ilaan sa pagsaliksik dito. Dahil sabi nga nila, uso pa rin ang nakanganga. Huwag magpasakop sa kibit balikat lamang. Huwag magbulag-bulagan, tayo ay Pilipino, maging responsable. Karapatan nating malaman ang lahat. Obligasyon ding bitbitin ang ganap at sapat.
Ang pag-ibig natin ay walang hanggang paalam. At habang magkalayo, papalapit pa rin ang puso. Kahit na magkahiwalay, tayo'y magkasama sa magkabilang dulo ng mundo.
Panahon ng pagtitika ngayong Kwaresma. Paano ba bibigyan ng kwenta? Umaalim po yung pananamantala, ito ay iwaksina. Ano nga ba ang dikta ng ating pananampalataya? Hindi ba tumindig at mamalakaya? Tungo sa pag-ibig na walang hanggang paalam, pag-ibig na nagmulat sa ating mga mata, mata para sa totoo at prinsipyado, mata na tatanaw sa pangitain at panganurin, mata na sisilay sa bagong umaga, mata na kikilatis sa bawat eksena, bawat drama at bawat puna sa social media, mata na hahawiin ang mga misinformation at disinformation. Ito ang aming layon, bumangon na mahinahon. Lumaban, umahon, harapin ang hamon. Ngayon ang panahon.
Sa pagputok ng bawat balita, kasabay ang pagsulpot ng mali at mapaninlang na impormasyon.
Mula sa pagkamatay ni Kobe Bryant at ng kanyang anak, mga sunog sa Australia, pagsabog ng Bulkang Taal, shutdown ng ABS-CBN, at lalo itong COVID-19 pandemic, hindi na uubusan ng materyal ang mga factory ng mis at disinformation sa social media.
Ako si Celine, editor ng VERA Files.
At ako naman si Marinette, reporter ng VERA Files.
Mula ngayong Oktubre hanggang Pebrero, tuturuan namin kayo kung paano magsuri ng online content sa pamamagitan ng 6 na video.
Mapagkakatiwalaan ba ang website o Facebook page na nasa harap mo? Baka naman luma ang litrato na isi-share mo. Paano ba maiiwasan na ma-hack at matrack ang iyong social media accounts?
Abangan ang unang tutorial ngayong October 15. Lahat yan, ituturo namin. Promise! Walang lokohan.
Meet our speaker. Ms. Celine Isabel B. Samson is a writer and editor at VERA Files, a 13-year-old non-profit media organization that specializes in in-depth reporting and fact-checking. Ms. Celine leads the VERA Files team that debunks online mis- and disinformation as an official third-party fact-checking partner of Facebook. She also trains students, teachers, media, lawyers, and civil society organizations around the country on social media verification and political fact-checking. Prior to joining VERA Files, she was a reporting assistant for an investigative series by Reuters on the Duterte administration's war on drugs from 2016 to 2017. The series won the 2018 Pulitzer Prize for International Reporting. Apart from fact-checking, Ms. Celine also reports on how disinformation affects democracy, and she also writes about health and road safety. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest speaker for today's webinar, Ms. Celine Isabel B. Samson.
Thank you, Brian. And maraming salamat rin po sa inyong lahat, sa 158 people currently in our Zoom call. And I know there are more who are tuning in via Facebook po. At maraming salamat po dahil kahit sa intro pa lang sa event ngayon, nakakatuwa po at makita ang mga fellow na Christians dedicating this time as we are in the Lenten season to fighting misinformation and disinformation. So I hope yung ating talk po today makatulong sa ating lahat. Ano ba yung pwede nating gawin para malabanan natin yung problema sa kumakalat na mali at misleading na information ngayon. So let me just share my screen po to begin our talk. Ayan, I hope everyone is able to see this. Okay po. Ayan. So magbibigay lang po ako ng maigsing background kung saan po ako galing. Muli ako si Celine Samson at galing ako sa VERA Files. Ang VERA Files, isa actually siyang online media organization. We are a non-profit media organization na binuo noong 2008 ng 6 na veteran na women journalists. Ang main na difference ng VERA Files sa mainstream media, hindi kami nagbe-breaking news. So in fact, ang mas focus ng aming organization ay in-depth reporting sa mga current issues, at pati na rin ang fact-checking. At ang ibig sabihin ng VERA sa pangalan ng VERA Files ay totoo in Latin. At makikita niyo kami sa verafiles.org. Ayan. So ilan sa mga topics na nagsusulat ang VERA Files tungkol ay mga kaso ng human trafficking, ang mga karapatan ng mga persons with disabilities, election-related violence, earth journalism o yung pagre-report tungkol sa ating kapaligiran, sa environment natin, pagre-report rin sa road safety bilang isang public health issue, at ngayon mas kilala ang VERA Files sa fact-checking actually. At ang fact-checking na ito na ginagawa ng VERA Files ay ginagawa namin sa Ingles at sa Pilipino. Ayan. Actually, so yung fact-checking project or fact-checking initiative ng VERA Files, nagsimula ito noong 2016. So itinatag kami noong 2008, pero nagsimula kami mag-fact-check talaga noong 2016. At siguro yung iba, what other people think, yung fact-checking, mga journalist lang yung gumagawa niyan or yung may kayang gumawa niyan. But actually, hindi. And in fact, yung VERA Files fact-check, nagsimula ito bilang isang class project sa isang undergraduate na journalism class sa UP Diliman. So yung isa kasi sa mga founders ng VERA Files, si Professor Yvonne Chua, she was teaching a journalism class sa UP. And what she did, she had her students fact-check yung mga statements na ginagawa ng mga national na candidate during the 2016 elections. So yung mga fact-check article ng mga estudyante ni Professor Chua, inedit yan ng VERA Files at pinublish sa website ng VERA Files. At after nun, tinuloy ng VERA Files yung project na ito hanggang sa maging full-blown na talaga siyang operation sa VERA Files. Talagang parte na ng trabaho namin ang mag-fact-check. Ayan. At ngayon, sa VERA Files, mayroong 2 project ang aming organization pagdating sa fact-checking. Ang una dito ay ang pag-fact-check sa mga public figure. So pag sinabi nating public figure, pwedeng ito yung mga politician, mga celebrity, mga vlogger. These are people who have influence over public opinion. At ang ginagawa namin, sinusubaybayan namin yung mga statement nila at we try and see if they said anything that is false, misleading, o kaya nag-flip-flop sila sa isang issue, meaning Dati ito yung stance nila, pero ngayon biglang nagpalit sila ng stance. Ibang-iba yung kanilang sinabi. So we track them at we publish this under this project on fact-checking public figures. Ang nakikita niyo dito actually sa example na nakikita niyo sa screen on the left side, when we fact-check COVID-19 misinformation during the first year of the pandemic noong 2020, what we noticed is that it was actually President Duterte himself who was the biggest source or the top source of COVID misinformation among the public figures in the Philippines, among the public officials in the Philippines. So apart from fact-checking public figures, ang isa pa naming ginagawa sa VERA Files ay ang pagsubaybay sa mga kumakalat na information sa internet o sa social media. So ito yung fact-checking namin ng online misinformation and disinformation kasi isa kami sa mga third-party fact-checking partner ng Facebook. So dito, basta umikot sa internet, nag-viral, what we do, we try and see gaano ba katotoo ito. At kung hindi siya totoo o kaya misleading or kaya needs context, it's out of context, nagsusulat kami ng fact-check articles. And itong project na to, yung pag-fact-check sa online misinformation and disinformation, ito yung project na pinamumunuan ko sa VERA Files. And then just to give a bit of background, baka iba sa inyo nakakita na ng fact-check ng VERA Files sa Facebook. Actually, yung iba, they think na nagdi-delete kami ng mga post o kaya nagbablock ng mga accounts. But actually, we do not do that. Facebook lang yung may kakayahan gumawa noon. Ang ginagawa lang ng VERA Files bilang partner ng Facebook, kami yung nagde-determine kung gaano katotoo ang isang post at nagsusulat kami ng fact-check article tungkol dito. Ayan. So, as we proceed, ngayon you know a little bit about VERA Files, about me as well. Gusto ko naman kayong makilala. So, i-invite ko sana kayong lahat na magbukas sana kayo ng extra browser or for example, ngayon kayo ay naka-laptop, you can use your phone at i-open ang Google Chrome and go to menti.com and type the code 11065930 dahil meron lang akong very short na survey. Ayan. Para lang makilala kayo ng mas mabuti. Ilalagay ko rin sa ating chat box yung link sa ating survey. Hindi ko pala na-copya. Kopyahin ko lang. Oops. Ayan. Share. Copy link. And then, ayan. So, if you click this link na pinadala ko ngayon sa chat, ma-access nyo na ang ating survey. Ayan, okay. Meron lang akong 3 questions para sa ating lahat ngayong hapon. At nakikita ko, may mga sumagot na. Okay po, ayan. So we have 30 people answering so far. Ang unang-una kong gustong itanong po ay, kayo ba ay nag-check ng inyong mga social media accounts araw-araw? At ngayon, majority, more than, well actually halos lahat sa mga sumasagot so far ay yes. But we have 3 people answering no. Okay, so mukhang yung iba talagang part na ng daily life natin yung pag-check sa social media. If hindi po natin ma-access yung survey, pwede po kayo sumagot via our chat section. Ayan, parang si Joanne, ang sabi niya, yes rin every day. So pwedeng ang araw-araw, no? Pwedeng dahil andito kasi yung trabaho natin, mga kaibigan, or simpleng yung paglilibang natin, gusto natin sa social media pala natin nakukuha ito. But we also have people answering no. So, hindi everyday check. Ayan, sige po, sagutin lang natin ang survey. But for now, let's go to the second question. Ayan, ngayon naman, gusto ko pong malaman, gaano nyo kadalas na-encounter ang disinformation sa inyong mga newsfeed and chat groups? So, ang choices po natin dito ay, 1, is it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a few times a month, seldom, or minsan na minsan lang talaga, or never. Ayan. So, sa ating both sa chat at dito sa survey mismo, mas ang sagot ay on a daily basis. Pero may sumagot rin na on a weekly basis. So, hindi naman daily, pero weekly, meron. At may 2 tao na sumagot na paminsan-minsan lang. Okay, ayan. Actually, parang interested rin ako makita kung may sinasagot rin ba yung ating mga nanonood mula sa Facebook. Pero baka nare-reflect rin yung experience ng mga tao dito sa ating Zoom room ngayon, no? Na on a daily basis, wow, 53 people so far see disinformation daily sa mga news feed at chat groups. Okay, sige. Punta tayo sa panghuling question po. Number 3. Ayan. So, dahil yung iba sa atin daily nakakakita or weekly or kahit minsan lang, seldom. Now, I'm interested to know, ano yung pinaka-latest na namarites nyo na disinformation? Ayan. Ano yung most recent piece of disinformation na na-encounter ninyo? Pwedeng sa social media, natanggap sa chat, sa text, o kaya na balita sa inyo ng kapamilya or ng kaibigan. Ayan, about politics. Kung may specific kayo na topic, pwedeng-pwede niyong ilagay yan. Historical revisionism. Walang pasok next week dahil Holy Week. Naku, dapat ata i-consult natin ang ating school administrator para i-fact check kung may pasok nga ba next week dahil Holy Week. Okay, Pulse survey, Pulse Asia survey. Naku, kanina kaka-release lang ng latest na survey ng Pulse Asia. Marcos Air is not accountable in estate tax. More on politics. Yung iba naman, presidential and vice presidential candidates, credentials of Bongbong Marcos. Ito naman tungkol sa Ukraine, no? Si President Volodymyr Zelensky and wife singing Endless Love. Naku, parang gusto ko ata hanapin yun at tingnan kung tunay ba yun o hindi. Dying female pilot in Ukraine. Ang VERA, actually may na-fact check rin ng VERA files about this, yung namatay raw na babaeng piloto sa Ukraine. BBM credentials, wrong information about the presidential candidate's accomplishment. Okay, Marcos ill-gotten wealth, Marcos family, historical distortion. Okay, ngayon kumalat sa social media na patay na daw si Chris. Actually, sa VERA files rin, madalas namin na-encounter ito. At paulit-ulit, no? Pero palagi at lagi rin na na nakikita natin hindi man totoo yung balita. Okay. Ayan. At pero ang nakikita natin, ayan, dumadami po ang ating mga sagot and thank you so much for answering. Pero makikita natin nag-overlap, no? May mga answers na pare-pareho tayo ng sinasagot dito sa ating survey, no? At siguro from this masasabi natin na yung ibang pieces of disinformation, pare-pareho yung umaabot sa atin, no? Or talagang malawak talaga yung reach ng disinformation for many different people to say the same thing. That ito yung most recent piece of disinformation na nakikita nila. Okay. Ayan. Sige, patuloy lang po natin at sagutin. At maraming salamat po for sharing. At magda-dive deep pa tayo dito sa ating talk today. Ayan, sige, let me just go back to sharing my presentation. Ayan, okay. So ngayon, medyo mas nakilala po natin ng isa't isa yung mga experience natin pagdating sa pagharap sa misinformation at disinformation. So ngayon naman, di ba, ang dami-dami nating example na nabigay kanina ng mga latest piece of misinformation and disinformation na na-encounter natin sa social media. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin, ano ba yung mga danger pagdating sa pag-rely sa social media lang as a source of information. So kanina, di ba sa survey, ang tanong natin, araw-araw ba tayo gumagamit ng social media? Baka kasi yung baka iba sa atin, dito na tayo actually kumukuha pala ng balita natin or ito lang yung binubuksan natin, wala na tayong ibang binubuksan pa ng mga tabs. Sa social media lang tayo kumukuha ng information. Pero ano nga ba yung mga dangers sa relying only on social media as a source of information? So I have 3 that I want to point out. So number 1, actually what I want to say in this first point, yung social media kasi, it's a mix of sources, no? Pwedeng may mga credible na mga source, mga katiwa-tiwala, mga authority na nasa social media, pero tandaan rin natin, hindi lahat ng sources sa social media credible o mapagkakatiwalaan. So let's say for example, familiar ba tayo doon sa term na CTTO? Kung familiar tayo, can you tell me sa chat ano ba ibig sabihin ng CTTO? Ayan, bigyan lang natin ng a few seconds. Baka tinatype pa ng ating participants. Credit to the owner. Credits to the owner. Yes. Okay. So familiar yung iba sa atin sa CTTO. Pero kapag 'di ba sinabi nating credit, kasi marami naman dito mga 'di ba, mga teacher o kaya mga student, alam natin yung citation, 'di ba? Pag sinabi nating citation, dapat klaro sino ba yung owner. Sino yung ano yung link doon sa source na ginamit mo or ano yung libro na ginamit mo. Pero kasi kapag nakikita natin yung CTTO, hindi mo naman siya talaga sinasite, 'di ba? Hindi ka talaga nagsasite ng source. Parang binabato mo lang sa hangin, sino ba yung owner na to? Itong CTTO. So kapag nakita natin yung CTTO sa internet, hindi naman sa sinasabi natin na fake agad yung post, pero isipin lang natin, kanino kaya talaga nanggaling itong piece of information na to? Baka mahanap ko pa yung original. Kasi ang CTTO, it's not a credible source. Malay ba natin sino ba yung owner na ito? Another thing, pagdating sa social media, marami ring mga impostor sa social media. So baka sa atin may mga kapamilya tayo or tayo mismo na nagoyo na ng mga fake account sa social media. Isang example nitong COVID-19 pandemic, may mga post na lumabas na sabi sa Facebook, ibigay nyo ang inyong pangalan, address, phone number, at dito namin ililista namin tong details na to para makatanggap kayo ng ayuda. So isa sa mga Facebook page na nag-publish nito ay ang DOLE, DSWD, Interagency Cash Assistance Online Application Facebook page. So a mouthful, no? Dami but ang haba ng pangalan. But it turns out, impostor pala ito. Hindi pala siya related sa DOLE o kaya sa DSWD. Pero hindi yun napansin ng ilang libong tao dahil ang dami-dami pong tao na nag-comment sa post na yun na binigay yung address nila, pangalan, at phone number sa isang imposter na Facebook page. So dapat medyo we should be trying to practice. May dumadaan lang po na campaign truck sa amin. Sorry po. Ayan, okay. Dapat dito nating alalahanin, maraming mga imposters sa social media. So dapat siguro chine-check rin natin yung legitimacy ng isang specific na account na nakita natin sa social media. Okay. And then also, ito pa isa, no? Ang iba sa atin siguro, kumukuha ng impormasyon mula sa YouTube o kaya sa TikTok. But we have to remember, often, these are not credible sources. So, pwedeng kasing may mga legitimate na source, mga authoritative na source na nasa mga social media platforms na ito. Let's say, for example, siguro ang WHO o kaya ang Department of Health or COMELEC, siguro may mga sarili-sarili silang YouTube channel. Pero marami rin tayong makikita sa YouTube, sa TikTok, ng mga account na nagpe-pretend to be COMELEC or they pretend to be news organizations, pero it turns out hindi naman pala sila tunay. So dapat maging mapagmatsyag rin tayo doon sa mga accounts na yun na posibleng nakikita natin sa online platform, social media platform. So one example of this, it's this verified YouTube channel called Showbiz Fanatics. So di ba pag sinabing Showbiz Fanatics, baka ang expectation natin pa may showbiz news yung ilalabas ng YouTube channel. But upon our investigation sa experience ng VERA sa pagfa-fact check, itong Showbiz Fanatics isa siya actually sa biggest sources ng disinformation sa YouTube dito sa Pilipinas. Hindi showbiz yung pinapublish niya, kundi tungkol sa politika. At makikita niyo rito, it tries to copy yung mga headline ng media, tulad ng ito, nagtatry siya mag-breaking news na just in, President Duterte tinanggal si James Jimenez sa posisyon. So that is a false claim. Pero may verified account siya, verified check siya. So hindi dahil dito makikita rin natin siguro na hindi dahil verified or sinabing showbiz fanatics or something else, pagkakatiwalaan natin agad, dapat i-fact check natin yung content na yun. Pangalawang danger pagdating sa pag-rely lang sa social media for information, you don't actually get the full picture on social media. So dito, sa makikita niyong picture, familiar siguro sa atin ito, kahit sa mga sarili nating barangay, na-witness siguro natin ang mga nagmamarites na mga kapitbahay natin, or even baka kapamilya natin, marites rin pala, no, nakikisagap ng balita sa ating mga kapwa kapitbahay. But actually, diba, if you're familiar with the game na pass the message, diba usually, what happens during that game, yung message sa source, pagdating sa'yo, sa dulo, ibang-iba na yung message, no? At pwedeng yan rin yung nangyayari sa pag nagchichismisan tayo or kahit nasa social media tayo, yung original na piece of information, baka pag nakarating sa inyo, there is a big chance na iba na pala yung message na nakakarating sa inyo. So dapat we don't just rely on social media for information. No? So for example, baka kunwari pagdating for example, this month may lumabas na video that claims ang mga Marcos daw na clear sila sa lahat ng charges nila sa racketeering at sa fraud. But actually, it turns out if you go out of this YouTube video or TikTok video and you just do a little quick Google search, it turns out hindi pala sila cleared sa lahat ng cases. Sa isang case lang ito cleared. Isang specific case lang ito. So we have to be mindful of that. No, you don't get the full picture sa social media. At even this one, no, this specific photo nag-circulate after ng filing of candidacies noong October. So nag-light up daw in pink yung Rustan Cebu, yung De La Salle University, UST, Marco Polo sa Ortigas ng pink in support of Leni Robredo. But actually, kung sa social media ka lang nag-rely on information, baka naniwala ka, shinare mo ito. But it turns out, nung finact-check namin ito, hindi pala related sa filing of candidacy ni president for president ni Vice President Leni Robredo ang paglight up sa mga buildings na ito, no. Yung iba for breast cancer awareness, yung iba for celebration na dahil for example yung Lasal nag-rank sila sa Times Higher Education Ranking System. Pero kung nag-rely ka lang sa social media, baka naniwala ka na nag-light up ito in pink for Robredo. So we don't get the full picture on social media. And other times, actually, yung information na nakakarating sa inyo, hindi lang misleading or hindi lang twisted, but actually completely fabricated, talagang hinugot sa hangin or fake talaga. Sa halimbawa, some of the most popular example ay itong mga fake na quote card. So pag sinabi natin quote card, ito yung mga social media card. Tapos may quote or statement mula sa isang public figure raw. Pero nakikita natin, isa rin sa observation ng VERA files, ito ay isa sa mga pinaka-popular na format ng mga disinformation makers. Minsan gawa-gawa lang yung quote, tapos lalagyan ng pangalan ng specific na public figure to make it appear na sinabi siya ng isang politician, celebrity, at maraming naniniwala. But again, kung sa social media lang tayo magre-rely, baka naniwala tayo. So dapat i-fact check natin ito. Okay, and now last point na lang po. Doon sa danger on relying on social media, yung pagre-rely sa social media, it tends to discourage the habit of verification, no? Pagdating kasi sa social media, baka narinig na natin yung term na echo chamber, no? Ito yung nangyayari kapag yung panay nakikita natin sa social media natin ay yung mga sang-ayon sa atin, no? Sang-ayon sa mga paniniwala, sang-ayon sa mga opinion. Kung maaari makikita niyo dito sa picture on the right, I hope you're able to see it clearly. It says, you're right. Pero nanggagaling siya sa bibig ng tao at pumapasok rin sa tenga ng same person na yun. So, baka inaakala natin tama pala yung nakikita natin. But it turns out, hindi pala. Baka masyado tayong nagiging kampante na tama lahat ng nakikita natin dahil sang-ayon to sa paniniwala natin. Pero, baka it turns out, hindi naman pala. So, we have to go out of social media para ma-verify, ma-check yung katotohanan ng mga nakikita natin or naririnig. I want to point out this one, yung social media is not the world and the world is not social media, no? So, hindi naman yung buong internet nasa social media lang. You're not married to social media. So, dapat yung pag-fact check natin, talagang lumalabas tayo sa social media. We try to look at credible sources. Mga authoritative na mga sources, yung mga napagkakatiwalaan talaga na sources. At later, in a few minutes, malalaman natin paano ba natin mako-consult yung mga credible sources na yun. What is a credible source? Okay, so yan. Na-point out natin ano ba yung mga dangers of relying on social media for information. Now, bakit naman tayo dapat maging maingat sa pagkonsumo ng information from verified and unverified sources? Here, I just want to make the main point here that I want to make is that yung disinformation and misinformation, hindi lang siya, yung effects niya, hindi lang siya nakukulong sa internet, no? Meron siyang mga real world effects. So, for example, actually, misinformation has actually killed people. So, one example is in India, no? Ang nangyari sa India, there was this 3 men who were distributing candy sa mga bata sa mga villages. However, may nag-take ng picture dun sa mga lalaki na nagpapamigay ng candy at pinost siya sa WhatsApp na may kasamang message na sabi, mga kidnapper, ito yung mga kidnapper na nababalita sa atin. So, at yung message na yon nakarating sa sumunod na village. And it turns out, ang nangyari pala, dahil nagalit yung mga tao na, ito pala yung mga sinasabing kidnapper, inambangan nila yung mga lalaki sa sumunod na village at napatay yung isa sa mga lalaki na yon ng ambang sa kanila sa sumunod na village. But this was a case of misinformation na mali pala yung impormasyon na nakarating sa mga tao, and it actually affected a human life. But in our case, for example, sa Pilipinas, ano ba yung sample ng real life effect ng misinformation at disinformation? We don't need to go very far. Ngayon lang, sa COVID-19 pandemic, baka mayroon sa atin, mga kapamilya natin, or tayo mismo, natakot magpabakuna dahil sa mga nakikita nating post sa social media na may microchip raw, 5G raw ito, or something else. But it turns out, hindi pala totoo itong informasyon na ito. But this type of information that circulates on social media or in your private messages, it actually affects yung confidence ng tao sa pagpapabakuna. Or kaya may instances rin na yung iba pwedeng hindi na nagpatingin sa doktor sa paniniwalang pwede akong uminom ng salabat or magtuob na lang para ma-cure yung COVID ko. So pwede kasing yung pag-inom ng salabat or pagtutuob, it can help with your symptoms, pero it doesn't mean pinapatay niya yung virus, no? So, but yun, these are some examples of real-world effects of misinformation and disinformation. Another real-world effect, siguro marami sa atin familiar rin with red tagging or yung pag-tag sa isang tao or organization as a communist or a communist sympathizer, let's say. So in this case, lalo noong pinasa yung anti-terror law noong 2020, talagang mas naging talamak yung pagre-red tag sa atin dito sa Philippines. And the danger here is that yung danger to a person's security and safety kapag nare-red tag ka, 'di ba? Ito yung isa sa mga real world effects no ng misinformation at disinformation. So for example, in this case, maraming mga women, mga babaeng politician, babaeng artista at journalist na tinag as communists or as membro daw ng CPP, NPA. And in the current situation here in our country, being tagged as a member of the CPP or NPA can be dangerous for your life. So yun, this is another example of a real world effect. And even yung nangyayari ngayon na historical revisionism, it affects how Filipinos perceive or what they believe to be history, no? At nakikita natin to ngayon, maraming mga posts na umiikot sa social media na yung, for example, yung Marcos years, talagang golden age lamang siya. Pero hindi at dinedeny yung katotohanan na may mga human rights violations or may mga posts sa social media na nagsasurface, na nag-claim na walang ill-gotten wealth na nakuha ang mga Marcoses. But as we will see, if you just do a quick search on the internet, there are several court cases that prove it. That you will see whether it's a fact check article or it's a news article or it's a copy ng court decision mismo. If you just go on the internet and do your Google search, quick search, makikita nyo yung pieces of evidence na yun. And yeah, so I mean, ito talaga, no, nakita natin yung ilan sa mga examples of how misinformation and disinformation affects real lives, no? It goes out of just the internet sphere, but actually goes out into the real world and it affects people's lives. And now, bakit ba natin kailangan mag-fact check? Pinaka malapit sa atin ngayon is that it can affect how we will be making decisions in our lives, no? Yung information na nare-receive natin, it informs us, di ba? And it can affect what kinds of decisions we will be making. One of which can be who we will be voting for as our next leaders of this country. And I hope what we want to do is that we would like to make this decision based on facts, no? Kaya important for us to fact check para we make sure na yung information na nako-consume natin, ito yung information na factual, that is based on facts. Okay, so ayan. Ngayon naman, papasok tayo sa part ng talk on how exactly do we fact check? Paano ba tayo makakapag-fact check? Ayan. Okay, so now, meron akong isang short game ulit para sa ating lahat. So magpapakita ako ng 3 statement. And I want you to tell me sa chat kung yung naka-underline na statement ay verifiable or not verifiable. Ibig sabihin yung statement ba na makikita nyo, mafa-fact check ba natin to or hindi natin siya mafa-fact check? Okay, so ready na ba tayo? If ready na tayo, pa thumbs up naman sa ating chat section. Ay, sa chat section sa ating Zoom pala. Ayan, alright. So I see some. Ayan, okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's go and see our first item. So this is from the columnist, Bobby Tiglao, from March 11. No, this is what he said on Facebook. Philstar is now a venue for fake news. It reported that Robredo is more searched than Marcos. This is false. So, yung statement na ito ni Tiglao, is this something that we can fact check? Is it something that is verifiable or not verifiable? Ayan, mafa-fact check ba natin ito or hindi? Ayan. And now, to put your answer, just please type it in the chat. Okay, from Dojo, verifiable. We have several people saying verifiable. One person saying not verifiable. Okay, now 2 people saying not verifiable. The others verifiable. May conflict, no, na nangyayari. Okay, ayan. Yes, answer. Lagay lang po tayo ng answers natin. What do we think? Is this statement something we can fact check? Si Lay, sabi niya, CTTO, credits to the owner. Okay. Okay, let's find out. The answer is, ayan, this one is verifiable. Pero in a few minutes, natin malalaman kung bakit siya verifiable. But for now, punta tayo muna sa ating second item. Okay, so a lot of the people who answered earlier answered verifiable, which is correct. Okay, now second question, item. This is from last year. Si Sigip Party List Representative Rodante Marcoleta, he said, tungkol ito sa ivermectin, no? 'Di ba? If you remember, nag-distribute ng ivermectin si Congressman Marcoleta and si Congressman Mike Defensor. Ang sabi niya, makakatulong ito sa panahong ito, Kong Mike, lalong-lalo na dumadami na yung mga variants yata ng COVID-19. At ito namang ivermectin na ito, kahit anong klaseng variant ka pa, ito'y talagang makakapag-protecta sa kanila. So, is this statement na naka-underline verifiable or not verifiable? Okay, so we have people answering verifiable. Okay. Ayan, so mukhang karamihan so far, verifiable ang answer. We also have another person saying not verifiable. Okay. Okay. Ayan, baka yung iba nagmumuni-muni pa. Okay. We have another person answering not verifiable. Okay. So again, ang statement na tinitingnan natin, ito namang ivermectin na ito, kahit anong klaseng variant ka pa, ito'y talagang makakapag-protekta sa kanila. So is it verifiable na? Okay, dumadami ang ating not verifiable. So let's find out the answer for this. So the answer is, it's verifiable. Okay, so mamaya ulit malalaman natin bakit verifiable ito. So again, ang question natin, no, hindi kung tama or hindi yung statement. The question here is, ma-verify ba natin, ma-fact check ba natin itong statement nito? Okay, moving on to our last question. This is from last year in October, after former Senator J.V. Ejercito filed his certificate of candidacy for senator. Sabi niya, our country deserves the good ones who will help achieve prosperity for all, not leaders who think only about lining their pockets with public money. I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. So, is this statement verifiable or not verifiable? Yung, I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. So, we have one person answering verifiable, the others not verifiable. Okay, not verifiable yung iba. Meron ding verifiable. Ayan, okay. Ayan. Ngayon, mukhang yung iba nagmumuni-muni rin. Mas quick doon sa ibang answers. Okay, other people answering verifiable. Okay, so now, sige, let's find out what is the correct answer here. And the correct answer is, it's not verifiable. Okay, so now aalamin na natin, paano ba natin ma-determine kung ang isang statement, pwede ba natin siya i-fact check or hindi? So actually, ang isa sa mga learnings natin that I hope you are able to take away from today is that actually hindi lahat ng statement pwede natin actually i-fact check. Sa VERA files, meron kaming criteria to determine kung ang isang statement fact-checkable ba siya or hindi. So let's dive into it. So ang first question that we ask ourselves, itong statement ba to na nakita natin or narinig, is it a statement of fact? Meaning, isa ba itong paglalahad ng isang, the way that it's presented, it stated as a fact. no? So let's say for example in this case, ayan, saan tayo? Ayan. At ito namang ivermectin na ito, kahit anong klaseng variant ka pa, ito'y talagang makakapagprotekta sa kanila. This one, meron siyang specific na claim, meron siyang stimate as a fact. Try and see. Ay, walang sound. Sorry, can you confirm if naririnig niyo ako or hindi? Kahit sa chat lang. Okay na po.
Meron na
Ayan.
po.
Okay po. Thank you. Sorry, I just got a notification na your connection is unstable. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Ayan. Okay. So, pag sinabi nating statement of fact, it's a declaration, no? Declaration of something as a fact. So in this case, ito nga itong ivermectin na ito, kahit anong klaseng variant, makakapagprotekta. So stimate ni Marcoleta, Congressman Marcoleta, ito as a fact. Another thing, si Bobby Tiglao naman, Philstar is now a venue for fake news. It reported Robredo is more searched than Marcos. This is false. So this part, especially yung last two sentences, yung Philstar reported Robredo is more searched than Marcos. This is false. This is something that was declared as a fact, di ba? Yung that we can try and see kung totoo ba ito or hindi. Compared to this one, no, this statement by J.D. Ejercito na, I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. Posibleng you will say na, declaration naman siya, sinabi niya na, I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. But what I want to point out here is that we cannot fact-check opinion. So let's consider that as well. So di ba dun sa question natin na, is this a statement of fact? Hindi counted dito yung opinion. Kasi let's say, for example, itong believe our people in the good one in the Senate. Mas siya, di ba, mas feeling siya ng tao or paniniwala niya, I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. So this is not verifiable. But I will expound more on this dito sa ating second point, second criteria, which is this statement something that is feasible to fact check or something that is verifiable? So balikan natin itong kay good one. I believe our good people deserve, I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. Kasi, di ba, our question is this something that is feasible to fact check? Pag sinabi nating believe, ayan, may dumadaan po ulit na campaign truck. Okay, ayan, paalis na siya. Okay po. So, di ba pag sinabi nating believe, how do you measure belief, di ba? Hindi mo naman mame-measure yung belief. So, that makes this statement not feasible for fact-checking. Hindi mo naman kasi siya mame-measure, di ba? Yung I believe our people deserve the good one in the Senate. Another example of claim that is not feasible for fact-checking, this statement by President Rodrigo Duterte on creating a department for OFWs. Ang sabi niya, I hope to come up with a department of OFWs. Pag sinabi mo kasing hope, di ba? How do you again measure that, no? Or paano magiging feasible to fact-check yung hope? It's not really fact-checkable. It's not something that you can fact-check. In this case, what I would say, 'di ba, itong mga future statements like I hope or I will, at this moment, at this point in time na sinabi ni public figure yung statement, hindi natin siya ma-fact check. But perhaps in the future, doon natin siya pwede i-fact check. So for example, sa VERA files, what we actually do, tuwing na every year, fina-fact check namin ang president. So na-meet ba ng president yung promise niya from last year? So di ba, you don't, hindi mo syempre ma-fact check yung future statement na ginawa today. So let's say for example, ang sabi ng isang public figure, I will construct this bridge, I will construct this bridge 30 months from now. So, at this point in time, hindi mo pa siya ma-fact check. Pero after 30 months, siguro, doon mo siya pwedeng i-fact check kung na-meet ba yung promise na yun. But at this point, hindi feasible to fact check yung future statement. And last point, last criteria, relevant ba yung statement na gusto mong i-fact check? May katuturan ba siyang i-fact check, no? Kasi baka mamaya tungkol pala siya sa showbiz na nabuntis ba ni si ganyan, or something else. Mag-boyfriend nga ba si artista A with singer B, no? So in our case, we also consider yung relevance kasi sa dami-dami nga na nangyayari sa Pilipinas, ang gusto natin bigyan ng atensyon, ng spotlight ay yung mga topics, mga issues na talagang it has an effect, it has relevance for us Filipinos. So we also consider yung relevance. And lastly, actually, so 3 yung criteria, but we also add this element of virality when we talk about social media posts. Kino-consider namin yung virality, meaning kung marami na bang tao na na-reach yung isang specific na message or video or post. Dahil, for example, kung 5 tao lang naman pala yung nag-share, we don't really fact check something na maliit lang yung reach. Kasi pag fact check mo siya, baka mas dumami pa yung ma-inform tungkol doon sa post na yon na mali pala. Lumawak pa yung reach nung maling post na yon. So instead, we fact check yung claims na mas viral, yung mas talagang kumakalat na sa maraming tao. Okay, so that's our criteria, no? These are 4 important questions to ask to determine if a statement is fact-checkable. Is it a statement of fact? Dapat hindi siya opinion, no? Is it something that is feasible or verifiable? Meron ba tayong mako-consult na mga document to fact-check something? Measurable ba siya? Or is it relevant? May katuturan ba siya kung i-fact-check natin? At is it viral? Marami ba yung naapektuhan nito ng post na ito? At na-reach ng post na ito? Alright. So, ayan ang ating criteria. Now, mag-move rin ako sa ilang mga tips that I can give you pagdating sa pag-fact check sa social media. This is specific for example, itong post na nakikita nyo ngayon. You encountered it on Facebook. So actually, this was posted by the Facebook page Lynn Channel. Ang claim, by wearing masks daily, your major organs can get too much carbon dioxide and not enough oxygen, which can lead to organ damage and failure. So yung pagsusuot nyo raw ng face mask sa pang-araw-araw can lead to organ damage and failure dahil you don't get enough oxygen, panay carbon dioxide yung nai-inhale nyo. So, what will you do kapag nakita nyo ang post na ito sa social media? I-share ba natin ito agad? Or i-fact check natin? Ayan, okay. Pero baka leading question na siya. But in this case, paano ba natin siya ma-fact check, no? In this case, what you can do, syempre, i-fact check natin siya. Ang una natin gagawin, titigil muna tayo. Baka kasi pag nadala tayo ng emosyon natin, di ba, na ay, my gosh, kapag nagmamask pala tayo araw-araw, panay carbon dioxide yung na i-inhale ko, hindi enough oxygen. Baka shinare nyo to agad, baka finorward nyo sa mga chat group or shinare nyo siya sa Facebook, sa Twitter. But tayo ngayon, as people who would not immediately believe everything that we see on social media, i-fact check natin siya. So what is something that you can do about it? So ito, ipapakita ko sa inyo. Very quick na Google search lang na ginawa ko. No? So in this case, I went on Google and I typed mask, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and World Health Organization. So pumunta lang ako sa Google, I opened a tab and I tried to Google ano kaya ang sinasabi ng isang credible source. In this case, gusto ko i-check yung WHO. Kung ano yung sinasabi niya tungkol sa face mask, sa oxygen at sa carbon dioxide. So let's see how it goes. So ayan. So maraming results syempre nalalabas. But I tried to check this one that was posted on Twitter. So makikita natin, ayan, maglo-load lang siya ng kaunti. I hope you're all able to see it. Let me full screen. Ay, hindi pala available on full screen. Okay, but I hope it's big enough. This is a tweet by the WHO na may verified badge. So we can be sure this is the official account of the WHO. What they said, the prolonged use of medical masks when properly worn does not cause CO2 intoxication or oxygen deficiency. So, ano yan, it just took us 30 seconds to do our Google search at meron na tayong sagot doon sa ating sa question siguro na pumasok sa isip natin na totoo kaya kung pag nagsuot ako ng mask araw-araw, panay CO2, panay carbon dioxide yung may inhale ko. But turns out 30 seconds later, nag-Google search lang tayo. Hindi pala totoo na nagko-cause ng CO2 intoxication or oxygen deficiency yung prolonged use ng medical masks. Okay, so anong mapipick up natin from this very short experience? Number one, be wary. One of my tips today, be wary of posts that stir your emotions and also to check your biases. Ano ba ibig sabihin nitong check your biases? Lahat naman kasi tayo, di ba? Bawat isa sa atin may sari-sariling opinion, may sari-sariling mga paniniwala, mga biases. So in this case, kung bias ka against wearing face masks, kung ayaw mo talagang magsuot ng face masks, baka shinare mo agad yung post na pinakita natin earlier, thinking it to be true. Kasi sang-ayon ka doon sa sagabal yung pagsuot ng face mask or delikado yung pagsusuot ng face mask. Baka shinare mo agad yung post. But our tip today, before you interact with something or believe it to be true, i-check mo muna yung mga biases mo. Huwag ka agad magpapadala sa biases mo. And take a moment to check something out first. Take a moment to check how true is it? How true is that post? And ma-apply rin itong tip na to kahit ngayong election season, no? Siguro karamihan sa atin ay mga botante na rin ngayon, no? So this is a very good quote from factcheck.org, which is a fact-checking organization in the US. One of the things they said, the next time that you're automatically appalled at some Facebook post concerning, let's say, a politician that you oppose, take a moment to check it out. So, in the same sense na, di ba, kung dun sa nakita nating post about face masks earlier, you stop muna before you share it, or you forward it or like it. You stop first and assess muna. Take a moment to check out gaano ba katotoo itong post na nakikita natin or naririnig. So, for example, in this case, di ba, yung quote card sa left, talagang nag-viral siya. There are about 37,000 people who shared this quote card. Na sinasabi na si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy raw, ang sabi niya, nakausap ko ang Diyos. Ang kumakalat na virus ay kaparusahan sa pagsira sa aming simbahan. Hindi ko ito mapipigilan. Ito po ay itinakda, ngunit ang mga kasapi po ay walang dapat ipag-alala. Kami po ay exempted, sabi ng Diyos. So sabi raw ni Apollo Quiboloy, exempted yung church niya from the COVID-19 virus. So umikat itong quote card na ito na may 37,000 shares. Siguro kung may bias ka na kasi for example, just for context, di ba? A few months earlier in October 2019, maaalala natin na si Pastor Quiboloy, ang sabi niya ay pinastop niya raw yung isang earthquake, di ba? Dahil sinabi niya stop. Tapos tumigil raw yung earthquake. So this is a true thing that he said. Kung sa tingin mo na sasabihin naman talaga ni Pastor Quiboloy yun yung exempted siya yung church niya sa COVID-19. Baka naniwala ka doon sa bias mo na yun. at shinare mo tong quote card na ito. Pwedeng because you found it funny or you found it something to be outrageous. But maraming taong mga naniwala dito at shinare siya agad. But it turns out, fake pala yung quote. At paano natin siya ma-fact check? If you just do a quick Google search, like what we did earlier. Another thing, kung siguro supporter ka ni Bongbong Marcos, baka naniwala ka dito sa post na ito na pinapakitang yung founder ng Facebook, si Mark Zuckerberg, nag-post siya ng picture na may karatula na sinabing si Bongbong Marcos lang ang karapat-dapat na susunod at dapat mamuno sa bansang Pilipinas. So baka naniwala ka. However, this is fake. No, this was an edited photo. At the same time, kung supporter ka naman ni Leni Robredo, baka naniwala ka na yung mga picture ng mga building na nag-light up raw in pink in support of her, was in support of her. But it turns out, hindi rin pala tunay yun. So again, ang tip here, check natin yung mga biases natin. Be wary of posts that stir your emotions. Kasi lalo din sa social media, yung mga gumagawa ng disinformation, these are people who the people who make disinformation, often they try to trigger your emotions. Para syempre, i-click mo yung post nila or i-share. Pwede kasing kapag kinlik mo yung isang link sa isang website, kikita na sila roon. Or kapag shinare nyo, baka susunod na step, i-follow nyo yung page nyo. So baka nag-ahakot rin sila ng mga likes sa page or naghahakot siya ng mga interactions sa isang specific na post. And also, di ba, na-touch on na natin to earlier, check your biases and also rely on credible sources. So, some of our tips here, go and visit yung mga authoritative na mga sources. Ano ba yung authoritative na sources? Di ba, for example, kung tayo may sakit, usually magko-consult tayo sa doktor o kaya for example, meron tayong kamag-anak na aral pagdating sa medicine, 'di ba? I-consult natin sila dahil alam natin na sila yung may kaalaman tungkol sa topic na ito, 'di ba? Sa issue na ito. So in the same breath, let's say for example, you encounter information about the elections. Ang authoritative source that we can consult ay ang COMELEC. So let's say for example, may nakita kayong post na postponed raw ang election. So wala namang, hindi yun totoo. This is just an example. But to check that, how can we check that? We can consult COMELEC. And let's say for example, yung spokesperson mismo, si James Jimenez, he's very active on Twitter. So pwede niyo siyang i-tweet at tanungin, spokesperson, tunay ba ito? So you can go and visit and follow authoritative sources. The same thing for credible health authorities. Pwede rin bisitahin yung mga website nila ng WHO, ng CDC or yung Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Department of Health. These are sources that we can visit. Ito na pag-usapan na natin earlier, di ba, yung CTPO is not a credible source, pati ang YouTube and TikTok accounts. And last point I want to make pagdating dito sa sources, also make it a habit to read from news websites. Kasi yung iba sa atin baka sa social media na lang nagre-rely. But what I would suggest, yung alternative to opening a newspaper, yung equivalent niya na ngayon sa online world natin, you go directly to the website ng media organization to get your information. And what we actually encourage you to do is don't just visit one, but visit 3. Read at least 3 news reports about the same topic. Kasi baka yung iba sa atin, di ba, baka may worry or hindi kayo kampante sa isang news report. What we would suggest, you read 3 para if you see that 3 credible na news organizations say the same thing, are reporting the same thing, then it suggests na totoo ito. Or nangyari talaga itong event na ito, sinabi itong statement na ito. So that's our tip. Triangulate. Use 3 sources. And I want to stress, pwede kasing nag-consult kayo ng 3 sources pero hindi pala katiwa-tiwala yung 3 doon or yung 2 doon. So make sure credible, legitimate na source yung kino-consult ninyo. Okay, and here are just a few more tips pagdating sa spotting disinformation and misinformation. Okay. One, 'di ba dami-dami nating napag-usapan na tungkol sa pag-consider sa source, 'di ba? Kung CTTO ba ito or something else. Be very observant pag nasa social media kayo. Kasi for example, this went viral last March. Itong post raw na nagsasabi yung bayanihan e-consulta ng Office of the Vice President, plano raw nila mag-sponsor ng energy tablet sa mga unit team rally attendees. So nag-viral siya, ilang thousands of people who shared this post. But if you look a little bit closer doon sa CBN sa baba, makikita nyo, CBN satirical. So this was actually posted by Cebu Daily News. So it's not Cebu Daily News, which is a legitimate organization, but a satire page, no? Cebu Daily News published this post. So very obviously, hindi totoo yung post. It's satire. It's meant to make fun of something or to serve as a commentary for something. Pero wala siyang katotohanan. But because hindi masyadong pinansin ng mga tao or napansin yung satirical na label, akala nila tunay. So, yun, be observant, no? Consider sino ba yung source. In this case, it's Cebu Daily News. Another case, and this one naman, quote card raw ni Senator Pacquiao. Ang sabi niya raw, sa susunod na eleksyon, wag niyong iboboto ang mga kaalyado ni Duterte kung ayaw niyong malubog sa utang. Tapos, di ba, mapapansin niyo, anong mapapansin natin sa post na to? Legit kaya siya or hindi? No? So, some of the things we might notice is that yung nag-publish, pangalan Frank Cinco. Pero yung label, yung makikita natin na logo, ABS-CBN. So, sino ba si Frank Cinco? No? Taga ABS-CBN ba siya? O random lang siya na netizen? So, for me, actually, kung nakita ko na may logo ng ABS-CBN, what I would do, pupunta ako sa ABS-CBN. Hindi ko i-share yung post ni Frank Cinco. I would rather share the post directly from the news organization, no? So that we make sure hindi tayo napapass the message. 'Di ba yung pass the message nga, pag yung tao sa simula, yung message sa simula, baka pagdating sa inyo, ibang-iba na pala. So I would rather go to the source. Another thing we would notice, it's CTTO. So again, pag nakita nating CTTO, kanino mo ba talaga kine-credit, ina-attribute yung post? So we're not saying the post is fake agad kung nakita natin yung CTTO, but dapat yung spider senses natin nag-a-alert sa atin na baka hindi ko muna to dapat paniniwalaan. I-check ko muna yung ibang sources. Again, ito nga ang logo ng ABS-CBN at makikita natin, sabi raw ito may detail. Sinabi raw ito ni Senator Manny Pacquiao sa Senate Committee hearing sa franchise ng ABS-CBN noong February 24, 2020. So that can be a clue for our Google search actually, no? Na we try and see, ano kayang sinabi ni Pacquiao sa Senate hearing sa ABS-CBN franchise noong Feb 24, 2020. So ang dami natin actually clues na pwedeng gamitin sa ating Google search. So in this case, what I actually did, I went sa Facebook page ng ABS-CBN. And I will try to see. So instead of a Google search, actually, pwede natin magpunta naman sa, let's say for example, Facebook page muna ng ABS-CBN. So we can see this is verified. This is a blue check mark. So we can be sure, okay, this is the official page ng ABS. And baka tip lang, baka hindi familiar yung lahat sa atin dito. May makikita kayong magnifying glass icon dito sa mga Facebook page. And this is actually a way for you to search for any post on this specific page. So in this case, what I would like to do is to look up ano ba yung mga post ng ABS-CBN tungkol kay Manny Pacquiao. Okay, kaya lang, mabagal ata ang aking internet connection. Okay. Okay, while that loads, let me go back to my slide first. Ayan, okay. So, mukhang hindi po nagko-cooperate ang aking internet connection. But, thankfully, we have our screenshots. So, if you click yung magnifying glass icon, you can actually type the word Manny Pacquiao. And then, once you type Manny Pacquiao, may lalabas na mga search results. And then, may mga filters na lalabas. In this case, you can actually filter by date. So, hindi nyo pwede i-filter yung posts by a specific date, but you can filter it by year. So in this case, diba ang nakalagay sa picture, 2020 raw. So nilimit ko lang yung mga posts to 2020. Let's try and see if the page works now. Okay. Ayan, it's still not working. Okay. So let's just use this screenshot. So, when I tried to look up the quote, so syempre, kailangan mo rin ng patience. So, siguro naka-isang minuto ako ng pagsa-scroll siguro. Kung iisipin, no, parang hindi naman matagal yung isang minuto. But if you're doing it, basta may tip, don't lose hope. Just go ahead and try and see kung ano yung mga pinost ng ABS-CBN about it. And then, sa pagsa-scroll ko, after about a minute, I found this quote card. So, kamukhang-kamukha, di ba, nung nakita natin earlier. Pero, magkaiba yung quote. Hindi siya tungkol kay Duterte, but tungkol sa ABS-CBN. Not even about election, but about the effect of shutting down ABS-CBN to Filipinos. So, we can see na, so fake pala itong quote na to. Hindi ito yung pinublish ng ABS-CBN, kundi ito yung pinublish ng ABS-CBN. So, in that case, na-fact check na rin natin. No? Hindi tayo nagpagoyo. Chinek muna natin kung gaano katotoo itong post na ito. Another piece of advice I can give is, let's say, for example, okay, in this case, pwede ka rin mag-quick Google search. So, punta lang tayo sa Google naman. Google.com. Okay, sara natin yung ibang tabs. So, in this case, actually, what I can advise, meron tayong mga special symbols that you can use para mas ma-improve yung Google search nyo. So, actually, let's say, for example, before itong quote kay Senator Pacquiao, let's use this one first. Pag sinearch mo, di ba, yung Rodrigo Duterte. Ayan. So, meron kang 14,300,000 results na lalabas. So, dito, sa mga posts na lalabas, pwedeng some of it tungkol kay Rodrigo Duterte, but baka yung iba, baka may lumabas na results tungkol sa ibang Rodrigo, no? Baka Olivia Rodrigo or something else. Or pagdating naman sa Duterte, may Sara Duterte na lumabas na result, no? But if you want to limit your search to a specific keyword, let's say for example, you want to tell Google, gusto ko lang lahat ng lalabas na posts tungkol kay Rodrigo Duterte. Kailangan ma-mention yung Rodrigo Duterte. Pwede niyo siyang lagyan ng quotation marks, double quotation marks. And in this way, nabanggit nyo sa Google, you're telling Google, I want all results to carry this term, Rodrigo Duterte. No? So kanina from 14 million, naging 10 million na lang yung results. But we can be sure na lahat ng results na lalabas, it mentions Rodrigo Duterte. So in this case, paano natin ma-apply ito kay Manny Pacquiao? What we can do actually, di ba meron tayong quote? You can take a part of the quote and place it in quotation marks. because you want to tell Google, Google, I want to look for this specific quote. So ano ulit yung quote? Huwag niyong iboboto ang mga kaalyado. Let's use that. Huwag niyong iboboto ang mga kaalyado. And then let's just add. So ito yung quote na gusto natin i-search. And then sa labas, ilalagay ko lang, sa labas ng quotation mark, ilalagay ko lang Manny Pacquiao, February 24, 2020. Sumobra pa ng 2. Oops. 2020. Ayan. Okay. So, when you did your Google search, when I did my Google search, ito yung lumabas. So, no results found. So, walang resource sa internet na nagke-carry ng quote na ito. Huwag niyong iboboto ang mga kaalyado. So, I just took a part of the quote. But also, there were several fact checks na lumabas. No? May mga fact check na lumabas na sinasabing Pacquiao quote, discouraging election of Duterte allies, fake. So, finact-check siya ng Fact Rakers, which is a fact-checking organization sa UP Diliman. And it turns out this is false. And also, Agence France Presse, or AFP, also fact-check it, and they said this claim is false. No, so in that way, we were also able to fact-check it outside of social media, no? Outside of Facebook, na fact-check rin natin yung kung gaano katotoo yung quote. And itong tip na binigay ko earlier about the double quotation marks, that's just one of 5, I think 5 to 7 tips that we gave in this specific video. Before we started this webinar, di ba, kanina may pinakita na video na namin ni Marinette, yung isa sa reporter sa VERA Files. Doon sa Promise Walang Lokohan. Isa ito sa mga episode na yun. Paano ba tayo makakapag research ng mabilis at masusi sa Google? So just please go ahead and watch this video if you want to learn more. Makikita niyo ito sa YouTube channel ng VERA Files, which you can also go to via this link, vera.ph/promisewalang-lokohan. Ayan. So we have that, consider the source. And also, again, check if may blue verification mark yung mga nakikita ninyong accounts. Before we proceed lang po, I just want to ask, siguro po si Ms. Gladys, how much time we have left for the lecture part? I know we have a Q&A session po.
Yeah, meron pa pong 15 minutes, 15 to 20.
Okay po.
Pwede pa, ma'am.
Okay po. Thank you, Ms. Gladys. Okay po. Ayan. Just a few minutes na lang naman. Tatapusin lang natin itong 5. Okay, consider the source. Also, ayan. So, apart from considering the source, di ba kanina nabanggit natin, madaming mga impostor na mga pages or accounts sa Facebook. So, one way we can try and see kung legitimate ba sila o hindi, we try and see kung may verified mark sila. And in this case, please do take note of it. So in this case, ABS, COMELEC, Senate, and PPCRV, we see that they have verified marks on their pages. Another piece of advice that I can give you on how to spot misinformation and disinformation, i-check rin natin yung date of publication. So very tiny detail, but sometimes people forget to check kung kailan ba pinublish yung isang post. Noong face-to-face classes pa tayo, maraming nagugoyo ng mga post na #walang pasok pag bumabagyo. Pero it turns out last year pa pala galing yung card na yon. Pero sinishare at this point in time. So maraming nag-aakala na totoo siya, pero hindi nila na-check na luma na pala yung date na nakalagay doon sa post. In the same sense, ngayon rin, habang gumagamit tayo ng social media, sometimes people aren't able to check the date on a specific post. So let's say, for example, this one. Nag-viral last March. itong quote na ito ni Davao City Mayor Inday Sara. Ang sabi niya, Leni Robredo should avoid commenting about honesty and integrity. She is not called fake VP for no reason. So maraming nag-share nito last March. So akala nila recent ito na sinabi ni Sara Duterte. But if you do a quick search doon sa quote, it turns out this was made by Sara Duterte. She said this in March 2019. So lumang-luma na po. 3 years ago. Hindi man lumang-luma, but still 3 years ago. But the people who shared it this year, they thought it to be recent. So it helps if you just do a quick Google search. It helps to know at least yung context. Kailan ba sinabi itong quote na ito, no? So ayan, check the date it was published. And then what else? Okay, check also the URLs. Familiar ba tayo sa URL? Ito yung website na address, no? Kasi pagdating sa misinformation and disinformation, marami ring mga accounts that try to be imposters ng media organization or ng legitimate na accounts ng, let's say, ng government. So may quick quiz lang ulit ako, 2 items lang ito, just to test. Alam niyo ba kung alin dito ang galing sa legitimate news organization? Which is the real URL of ABS-CBN? Is it letter A, viral-abscbn.blogspot.com? Is it letter B, abs-cbnnews.com with yung letter, yung after N ay number 3? Or is it letter C, news.abs-cbn.com? Or is it none of the above? Ayan, okay, ang dami nating sagot. And everyone is answering letter C. Okay, let's find out if this is correct. That's correct. Okay, so the legitimate URL of ABS is news.abs-cbn.com. Okay, next and last item. Which URL came from a legitimate organization? Which is the official URL of COMELEC? Is it A, comelec.gov.ph? Is it B, comelec-gov-ph.ml? Or letter C, comelec.ph? Ayan, baka yung iba tinatype pa muna sa browser to check each of the choices. Okay, but we have everyone answering very quickly and answering letter A. Okay, let's find out. Okay, wow, okay. And everyone got it correct. The answer is letter A. It's comelec.gov.ph. So, dapat actually talaga, chine-check natin yung URL ng mga nakikita natin sa social media or elsewhere. Kasi, ang isa nga sa mga modus operandi ng mga nagpo-produce ng misinformation at disinformation, they use fake URLs to make it appear that it's the real one. So, let's say for example, balik lang tayo dito sa COMELEC one. Pag sinabi kasi nating official website ng national government agency sa Pilipinas, dapat nag-end siya sa gov.ph. Kung nagtatapos siya sa iba, spider senses ulit yon. Baka red flag ulit. Because lahat ng government agencies natin na national, nagtatapos sa gov.ph. So whether it be DOH, NHA, what else? Senate of the Philippines or Congress, dapat lahat yan nag-end sa gov.ph. But take note, para ito sa national, yung mga LGU natin, hindi naro-roll out itong ganitong end URL for all of them. Another thing, familiarize yourself with the real URLs of news organizations kasi marami ring nag-i-impostor sa kanila. So for example, ang New York Times, nytimes.com. But may mga umiikot na URL na New York Times.xyz. So that is one thing we need to watch out for as well, yung mga hindi common na domains or hindi common na URL, di ba? Yung mga .today, .ml, .xyz. So let's be mindful of that. And as well as let's watch out for yung mga URL na gumagamit ng mga letters instead of numbers. Minsan ginagawa nila iyon to make it look like the real thing. Or minsan yung small letter L, ginagawa nilang number 1. So let's be observant of that. Okay, and then yun. So consider the source, check the date it was published, check the URLs, and also scrutinize headlines. Kilatisin natin yung mga headline. Kasi let's say, di ba, sino ba gumagamit ng headline? Mga media organization, di ba? But may mga nagpa-publish claiming to be media. So they try to use breaking news headline, gaya ng paggamit ng mga salitang just in o kaya breaking. But notice kung tama ba yung spelling, tama ba yung capitalization ng mga words na nakikita natin sa headline. Kasi kung legitimate media, hindi papasa sa editor na ma-publish ang isang post na na mali-mali yung spelling o kaya gumagamit ng letters instead of gumagamit ng numbers instead of letters, or hindi tama yung spacing. Chine-check yan. And also check if baka sumisigaw yung headline or masyadong outrageous. So kung medyo hysterical yung headline, try to stay away from it or try to check the legitimacy of it first before you believe it. So for example, in this case, may isang post na kumalat, ang headline niya, libreng pabahay sa lahat ng mahihirap sa buong mundo. So actually ito nag-viral rin ito. So maraming naniwala. But 'di ba, if you stop and assess muna, libreng pabahay sa lahat ng mahihirap sa buong mundo, gaano katotoo yung claim na yon, no? Na magkakaroon ng libreng pabahay sa lahat ng mahihirap sa buong mundo. Sino yung magbibigay nun? So take a moment to check it out first, no? Let's scrutinize yung headline, yung story. And also, apart from just reading the headline, of course, read beyond the headline. Try to read the story or watch the video and see kung tugma ba yung content sa title. Kasi baka clickbait lang pala yung title, pero hindi naman tugma yung story na nababasa nyo or napapanood. So these are our pieces of advice on how to spot misinformation and disinformation. Consider the source, check the date it was published, check the URLs, scrutinize headlines, and read beyond the headline. And now, okay, punta lang tayo sa last part. Okay. Ayan. Okay. So now, madami tayong nakuhang tips, no? Sa pagdating sa pagfa-fact check, pagdating sa how do we interact with a post that we see on social media. Remember yung how we interact, you check your biases first and then you do a quick check, you fact check. And we also gave you some tips on how to spot misinformation and disinformation. Now, ang last tip na lang, don't share our advice. We encourage you to not share posts without fact checking it. In this part, I want to stress na, di ba, some of us, we might be familiar with the term fake news, di ba? Mas kilala siguro sa atin yung term na fake news. But kami sa VERA Files, we don't actually use the term fake news anymore. Because one, it's may pagka-inaccurate siya, and also it's problematic. So it's inaccurate kasi hindi naman lahat ng fake news na pinatutungkulan natin ay balita talaga, ay news. Hindi rin naman lahat fake. Minsan out of context sila, di ba? Or misleading. And it's problematic kasi at this time, ginagamit siya as weapon against legitimate media, di ba? Pag sinabi kasi nating news, balita, totoo siya dapat. Yung practice of journalism, talagang it underscores the importance of facts, of truth, And kung yung report, it turns out to be fake, or yung ginamit nating descriptor for news is fake, it stops making sense, or hindi siya talaga balita. So instead, rather than using the term fake news, we use two more accurate terms to talk about the problem that we're discussing today. Yung kanina niyo pa narinig mula sa akin, disinformation at misinformation. I would just like to pull up my slide for that one. But ayan, just to better illustrate it, give me just a few minutes. Okay, misinformation and disinformation. Okay, this one. Pag sinabi nating misinformation at disinformation, yung main difference talaga between the two is intent, no? Pag sinabi kasi nating disinformation with the letter D, this is false information, and intentionally siya ginawa para makapanakit o kaya makapanira ng isang tao, ng isang organization, or even a country. Let me just get this. Ayan, all right. Okay, so that's disinformation. It's intentional, no? It's intentionally made to be false. Meanwhile, meron rin tayong tinatawag naman na misinformation, or ito yung impormasyon na mali, pero actually hindi naman sinasadya para makapanakit o kaya maging mali talaga. Pag sinabi nating misinformation, ito yung cases na this usually happens when a person shares something or forward something, but they don't realize na mali pala yung pina-forward nila or sinishare nila, and na-misinform sila. So why did I make this distinction, or why did I talk about disinformation and misinformation? Kasi babalik tayo dito sa ating tip na to, na don't share posts without fact-checking it, because if you share a post without fact-checking it, baka maging source ka ng misinformation. Pwedeng hindi mo intent, di ba, na mag-share ng maling post, pero nakapag-amplify ka pa rin ng maling impormasyon. And in that case, nakaka-misinform ka. So instead, to help our countrymen, to help yung mga pwedeng friends nyo sa Facebook, your family members, para hindi na mas kumalat pa yung maling impormasyon, you take it upon yourself to check kung gaano katotoo yung post na nakikita or naririnig nyo sa social media or elsewhere. So yun. So those are our tips today. Be wary of posts that stir your emotions, rely on credible sources, and don't share posts without fact-checking it. And yan, so now we know how to fact-check. Marami pang ways to fact-check, but this is what we were able to squeeze into an hour and a half. But the next step there is, don't just keep the knowledge to yourself, but share it with others, no? I'm sure siguro may na-pick up tayo na kahit 1 or 2 lessons from today na pwede nyong i-share sa mga kaibigan nyo, sa mga kapamilya ninyo, on how to debunk something or how to check the truthfulness of something. So take that next step, no? Show your peers how you fact check a claim para mas maraming tao yung alam paano mag-fact-check. So yun, and if you want to learn more about how to do fact-checking, you can go ahead and visit our website, verafiles.org/learning-corner. So dito niyo mapapanood yung promise, walang lokohan na video tutorial series. Meron rin kaming fact-checking comics at fact-checking do-it-yourself guide. At may mga quizzes rin kami actually dito sa page na to. And also, you can follow us on social media kung gusto niyo maging updated sa latest na fact checks ng VERA Files. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, if you use LinkedIn. And lastly, kung may gusto kayong post na ipa-fact check, pwede niyong kaming i-message sa VERA Files Facebook Messenger. So just look up VERA Files. And go to our Facebook Messenger and just type hi, tapos may lalabas dito na message. And you will be given a link where you can submit the link that you want us to fact check. At kung nasa Viber kayo, meron rin kaming fact-checking bot. So you can go ahead and visit viber.com/verafiles at ipadala nyo yung mga post na gusto nyo ring ipa-fact check sa VERA files. So yun, that's the end of our talk today. And I would be very happy to take on any questions that you might have. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Miss Celine, sa napakalalim at pagbibigay mo sa amin ng lakas para kilatisin ang mga bagay na totoo mula sa mga hindi totoo. So napakarami niyang binigay na tools at mga pamamaraan. So ang panahon na ito ay pagtatanong, paglilinaw, na habang nandito pa siya sa atin ay pwede niya tayong masagot. So pwede lang kayong magtaas ng kamay or mag-post dito sa chat box. So gusto nating pasalamatan, of course, naging posible ang bagay na ito dahil kay Pastor Tad Samson na relative ni Miss Celine Samson. Salamat din sa lay leader Romuel Flores ng Bulacan Philippines Annual Conference. Sila ang naging daan bakit naging posible na maimbita natin ang ating kaibigan, ang ating resource person, si Miss Celine. Kasama ko ngayon kasama sa Project Ubuntu team, si Ma'am Lucille Grace Hilario para sa ating open forum. At pagkatapos ng ating mga few questions ay babanggitin ni Ma'am Lucille ang munti nating Certificate of Recognition na ihahandog kay Ma'am Celine. Pwede na kayong magtanong. Meron pong bumabasa ng inyong mga tanong sa live streaming sa Facebook at meron din sa chat box natin dito sa Zoom. Or kung gusto nyong magsalita ay pwede kayong magtaas ng kamay. Ma'am Lucille?
Yeah, thank you, Ma'am Gladys, and thank you, Ma'am Jean Samson, for your very informative lecture to us. Nag-enjoy pati kami sa pakikinig.
Thank you po. I hope hindi information overload. Opo. Hindi ko po pala na-realize. Hindi ko sure kung lumabas po. Di ba nag-stop ako ng sharing kanina? Hindi ata na-share pala yung screen ko po. So ito kanina yung mga pinapakita kong slides. Salamat po.
Okay. Opo. Yeah.
O magtanong na kayo, mga estudyante namin mahal. Ma'am Chin, bakit ba sadyang may mga taong nagpapakalat ng fake news? Ano bang napapala nila? Sige nga.
Nako. Opo. Nako, actually, dito sa atin, maraming reasons bakit kumakalat, may mga nagpapakalat, at bakit kumakalat yung false news or yung misinformation. Pagdating dun sa intentional part, actually kasi yung paggawa ng disinformation, business na siya dito sa atin sa Philippines. May mga studies talaga that show, they studied yung nangyari noong 2016 elections, kung saan talagang nagamit, di ba, yung social media sa campaigning, but also even putting out false information. Talagang business siya that involves PR agencies, mga bayad na fake account operators, nagiging business siya. So talagang there are efforts to put out false information and people earn from it. Other cases though, may cases rin naman po na baka talagang misinformed lang yung mga tao. Pwedeng, for example, di ba, nung COVID-19 pandemic, ang daming disinformation rin po, no? Mapatungkol sa bakuna o sa origin ng COVID-19 virus, or how to prevent COVID. Yung disinformation about it, not all of it, I would say, is paid or was intentional. Minsan po kasi ang nangyayari yung siguro sa desperation ng mga tao na nakahanap ng cure, ng way to prevent COVID, na-misinform sila, nag-post sila ng mga bagay sa Facebook or somewhere else na akala nila nakaka-cure ng COVID nila, gaya ng pagkain ng nilagang itlog. Pero hindi pala siya tama. So in that case is that is misinformation naman. So that is another reason bakit may misinformation at disinformation na kumakalat rin po sa atin.
Thank you, Ma'am Chin.
Yes.
Ayan, may tanong na sa chat box ng Gladys. Ayan, may dalawa.
Ayan. Okay po.
Si Mark
Thank you, Joanne, and thank you kay John.
Is SMNI a credible source of news? They spread a lot of false information. Yan, sabi niya, SMNI. Mark, at least you're there. Okay.
Ayan. Naku, yung sa SMNI po, what I can say is actually na-fact check na rin namin ng SMNI because they have put out false reports. So if you would like to look for credible sources, I would suggest that yung i-consult nyo na lang ay yung mas credible na source siguro. Yung alam natin na hindi naglabas ng maling impormasyon. Because for example, in that case, yung SMNI, our experience there, what we fact check was they claimed na nagkaroon raw that Bongbong Marcos got a bachelor's degree or that he got his bachelor's degree from the University of Oxford, which is false. So yun po yung masasabi ko about SMNI.
Okay, are there more? Mga commendation na to Ma'am Shin. No? So from Sir Giancarlo, thank you po Ma'am Shin.
Thank you
Very
po.
timely relevant. And then we have here JK saying maraming salamat po Miss Jin. Okay. Puro pasasalamat naman Jin. Gladys, can we check out po dun sa ating Facebook, baka sa mga live stream kung may mga tanong ang ating mga viewers?
Yeah, so far, wala pa naman ma'am dito sa live streaming. Sila, Abigail and Riza, meron ba kayong nakita? Puro sila nagpapasalamat.
Wala pa din po. Ma'am, wala pa rin po.
Yeah, nagpapasalamat sila sa napaka-relevant na bagay na ito na natutunan at patuloy pang matututunan at tutuklasin. Maraming salamat, Ma'am Shin.
Yan, may tanong dito, Ma'am Shin. Paano po kami makakasiguro na ang galing sa sinasabing reliable media ay hindi bias sa mga binabalita po nila? For example, siguro reliable na yun ng ABS-CBN o kaya GMA. So, paano pa rin daw makakasiguro na yung binabalita nila ay tama at totoo?
Okay. Maraming salamat rin sa question kay Maria Cheska. Ang i-advise ko dito na talagang an approach that you can take is yung triangulation. Kasi baka 'di ba, you don't want to rely on just one source or siguro kine-question nyo yung credibility or yung bias ng isang nabanggit mo naman na sinasabing reliable media. Pero siguro, for example, you want to verify kung tunay ba itong report na ito, I would suggest you read 3 sources on that specific topic. If you see na pare-pareho sila na ni-report na sinabi ni politician A itong statement na ito, then it suggests na tunay siya. And in fact, actually, what can be more helpful if there is a video copy, kasi pwedeng may record talaga na sinabi itong specific statement na ito. Yung hindi bias sa mga binabalita. Actually, di ba, kayo rin mapapansin niyo rin, di ba, kung may bias ba or not yung pagkakasulat. But what I would suggest also, i-check niyo rin yung label doon sa nakikita niyong article kasi baka pala dapat kasi sa isang legitimate media, labeled kung opinion ang isang piece of content. So kung column pala siya, dapat labeled siya as opinion. So take note of that tag as well doon sa nababasa yung article. Check if it's news or check kung opinion pala siya. Ayan. And also, another thing that you can check to see if hindi sila bias sa mga binabalita, pwede nyo rin i-check yung track record nila on reporting on a specific topic. No? Kasi baka pala may slant pala yung specific na organization na iyon. You can try and check that. Yun. And dami kong sinasabi. But one more thing is that actually you can try and see sino ba yung mga sources that they contact, or ano ba yung mga sources na ginagamit nila. Is it a trustworthy source? Is it a credible source? And makikita niyo ba na katiwa-tiwala ba talaga yung source na iyon? May credentials ba yung source na ini-interview nila about a specific topic? So yun. And then, may question from Angela, is the verified can use po sa ACADS para i-check if the source info is fact or not? Pwede ba siya ma-access ng student? Yeah, so sa verifiles.org, we publish all our fact checks there. And actually, lahat ng fact check articles namin may sources. So, lahat ng sinusulat namin, pwede niyong i-double check kung tunay ba talaga ito or ano yung sources na ginamit ng VERA files. Sa ibang stories, in fact, there's a reference list sa huli. And in other stories naman, naka-hyperlink directly doon sa story. So, pwede niyong tingnan yung mga articles, yes, if we want to do research. And then kay Sheena, there are news coming from SMNI regarding VP Robredo's alliance with the NPA. How will VERA files take action since you're in partnership with Facebook? For us, as a third-party fact-checking partner, what we can do is we fact-check yung mga claims na umiikot. So, for example, there's a post that claims this, and it's something that we can write a fact-check article on. It's something that is feasible for fact-checking. Then what we can do is write a fact-check article about it that debunks the claim o kaya gives context to it. On the other hand, for example, ang Facebook rin, meron silang community standards, di ba? So if mayroong post that violates community standards, what you can do naman as a reader is, or as a Facebook user, is report it to Facebook. So, di ba may reporting mechanism sila? You can do that. But for us, because of our partnership, what we can do is write a fact-check article about it. Yeah, but what I can say, we have also explained to Facebook as well yung issue ng red tagging sa Philippines sa atin. Na, di ba, for example, sa ibang bansa, pwedeng if someone is called a communist, it's not really dangerous, di ba? Kasi yung communism, di ba, parang pwedeng belief siya, di ba? So, it's not as dangerous in other countries compared to us here. But what we have done is we explained to Facebook yung context sa atin kapag tinawag kang communist or NPA or CPP. Question from Kim, why are people or websites who disseminate false information not prosecuted under our laws? Actually, this one, pag sinabi kasi nating laws, it can be a slippery slope kapag meron tayong anti-fake news law, for example. Kasi let's say, tingnan natin yung mga bansa na nagkaroon na ng legislation ng anti-fake news law like Singapore. Di ba, ang gagawa kasi ng law, di ba, ay yung lawmakers, people in the government. So they will be defining who is a publisher of false information or what constitutes as false information. And in Singapore's case, nagamit yung anti-fake news law laban sa mga critics ng government. So, pwedeng kinonsider nila as disinformation or fake news yung kritisismo sa government. So it can be a slippery slope if we use laws to address misinformation and disinformation. And dito naman sa atin sa Pilipinas, yung Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, 'di ba, in effect siya for 3 months noong 2020. There was a clause there that says pwedeng ma-penalize, pwedeng ikulong and or mabigyan ng fine yung any person found to be publishing false information about COVID-19. Nagamit rin siya doon sa mga people who were critical of the government. There was this artist in Cebu who was jailed because nag-post siya ng satire na, for example, this city in Cebu is the center of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, 'di ba? Pero nakulong siya for that post. So, yun lang talaga ang difficulty if we use laws to fight disinformation. So, for us actually, we don't advocate for creating laws as an answer to fight disinformation and misinformation. Okay.
I think wala nang tanong and we don't have so much time. Siguro kung marahaba-haba pa tong talaga ang dami nilang tanong. Thank you, Miss Jean. Ma'am Gladys.
Thank you, Ma'am Lucille. Now we will go to our final moments. Maraming salamat, Miss Celine, sa napakabunga nating conversation. Marami pong salamat sa pagpapalakas sa amin kung paano namin magagapi ang misinformation at disinformation. Alam namin na hindi ito madali, ngunit sa madali ang disiplina at pang-araw-araw na pagbantay sa sarili at pagbantay sa mga paningin na kilatising mabuti ang mga bagay na totoo sa mga hindi, marami pong salamat. Magmula sa lahat ng mga estudyante na nandito at ang lahat ng sumusuporta sa Project Ubuntu at ang buong Project Ubuntu team ay naghahandog sa inyo ng Certificate of Recognition na nais ihandog namin sa iyo. Babasahin po ni Ma'am Lucille.
Certificate of Recognition is hereby awarded to Celine Isabel B. Samson for her unwavering commitment to cultivating criticality and misinformation and disinformation, thereby empowering people to become agents of peace and justice through criticality, clarity, precision, fair-mindedness, and confidence in reason. Given the 6th day of April 2022 by the Project Ubuntu team. Bigyan naman natin ng virtual clap si Ma'am Celine.
Thank you very much po, Miss Gladys and Miss Lucille and sa Project Ubuntu team.
Mabuhay po kayo. Maraming salamat. So let us, this is a very spiritual thing. Ang tindig ng pananampalataya ay patuloy nating panghawakan ang lahat ng mga bagay na ibinahagi sa atin ni Ma'am Celine. So bilang tao at responsableng tao, kami po ay magpapatuloy. So tanggapin natin ang benediction ni Bishop Seri Francisco.
Friends, go now in peace. May God Himself, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through. May your whole spirit, body, and soul be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. The one who calls you is faithful, and He will do it. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So isa pong natatanging bagay na magpakuha ng litrato, nakasama si Ma'am Celine. So pwede po ba na magbukas kayo ng inyong mga camera, mga dear participants, para sa isang natatanging larawan? Brian, can you help us?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so
Okay, picture po tayo in first page po muna. Ngiti lang
smile.
po. Keep smiling lang po. Thank you po. Next page po, keep smiling.
Talagang walang kibo pagka nagpapapicture.
Third page po. Fourth page po. And last page po. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Brian. Maraming salamat. Lahat po ng participants magmula sa Kolehiyo ng Edukasyon ng Wesleyan University Philippines, marami pong salamat sa inyo. At maraming salamat United Methodist Church, Middle Philippines Annual Conference na nandito rin po sila. Maraming salamat sa mga friends namin mula pa sa Bulacan, Philippines, at sa iba pang dako. Meron pong nasa Iloilo kanina, sumali siya. So maraming salamat, Ma'am Shin. Mabuhay po kayo.
Maraming salamat rin po and God bless po everyone.
God bless you. Thank you, dear students. Ingat kayong lahat.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye po.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po sa aming mga pastors na nandito. Pastor Dumaya, maraming po salamat. Ma'am Maureen, si Ma'am Maureen nandito po siya. At ang mga pre-service teachers.
I think nandito din si Pastor Ulanday kanina.
Nandito rin po ba ang ating Wesleyan University Philippines trustee? So nandito din po siya. Marami pong salamat. Yan ang ating mga students. Thank you, dear students. Congratulations. We are now above the misinformation and disinformation. Kaya natin to.